everyone, it's Katrina. Number 8. The Truth of Babylon. Researchers believe they may have just discovered the shocking truth about ancient Babylon. The discovery has to do with the biblical tale of the Tower of Babel. It is one of the stranger stories from the Bible found in Genesis 11. The Bible says that the tower was built in Babylonia after the Great Flood. Human beings came together and built a tower so big that it could reach the heavens. At least humans wanted it to reach the heavens. But when God saw what the people were doing, he was furious. He was angry that the people of Babylon had the audacity to believe they could build a mortal tower to take them to God's realm. So God struck the tower into pieces. He also shattered human language. Up until that point, everyone had spoken the same language, but God didn't want people working together anymore, so he splintered the one universal language into thousands. Most experts think the Tower of Babel is a myth, but now archaeologists have found potential proof. Dr. Irving Finkel of the British Museum discovered a brick with an unusual material on it. Finkel said the brick dates from the days of King Nebuchadnezzar II, the ruler said to be responsible for the construction of the tower. King Nebuchadnezzar II was a very real person, and in 586 BC, he tried to conquer the world. Historical documents show he captured the city of Jerusalem. Then he stole the most educated minds and most highly skilled workers and forced them back to Babylon. Then he made them build great works for him and his kingdom. Dr. Finkel believes King Nebuchadnezzar forced the Jerusalemites to build the Tower of Babel. The tower then became a symbol of oppression. When the Bible was written, the Hebrews incorporated the tower into their story, since it was such an important part of their history. But you're likely wondering what Dr. Finkel found that he's using as proof. The bricks recently discovered in Babylon were found to contain traces of bitumen. Bitumen is an ancient tar used for mortar, which was specifically mentioned in the Bible. Small letters on the brick also spell out the name of Nebuchadnezzar, meaning he personally commissioned whatever the brick was used for in construction. These discoveries point to the Tower of Babel being real. The issue is that the tower still hasn't technically been found. Researchers only think they have found its bricks, but there's a very good possibility the tower existed and that it was one of the most impressive constructs ever built, maybe even more impressive than the pyramids. Do you think the Tower of Babel is real or a myth? Let me know in the comments. Number 7. Humans in the crater. In South Africa, scientists recently discovered carvings from 8,000 years ago. Normally, the discovery of prehistoric carvings wouldn't be newsworthy, but this time the carvings were found inside the biggest meteorite impact crater in the world. It's called the Vredefort structure, the largest verified impact crater on this planet. The asteroid that made the crater was an estimated 9 miles wide. It crashed into planet Earth at 43,500 miles per hour. It would have had a devastating impact if it weren't for the fact that it hit over 2 billion years ago. There wasn't any life on the planet to wipe out yet. If such a thing hit Earth now, civilization would come to a horrifying end. The world as we know it would cease to exist. Within the 190-mile-wide crater, there are weird carvings of animals that may have had spiritual significance. The carvings were made in the granophyre dikes, long trenches that were created by the impact. Prehistoric humans crawled down into these enormous dikes and carved pictures of animals such as hippos, horses, and rhinos. Matthew Huber, a scientist from South Africa's University of the Free State, said they were most likely carved by the Khoisan. The Khoisan are believed to be the first people of Africa. They still live in the wilds of the plains. There are an estimated 100,000 Khoisan living across Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. The mystery is that nobody knows what the point of the carvings was, nor what their connection was to the granophyre dikes. Researchers think it had something to do with gods, spirits, and rain. What do you think? And now for number 6. But first, it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to Henry Swartz and PM Gambit for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about mysterious archaeological discoveries. Number 6. ChatGPT and ancient text. Some of the biggest mysteries plaguing archaeologists today are indecipherable scripts. Ancient writing like the Indus script and cuneiform continue to hinder discoveries of the ancient world. But what if researchers could use AI systems to reveal their secrets? Scientists think that models such as ChatGPT could unlock the baffling enigma of ancient books like the legendary Voynich manuscript. Much of the ancient world is still a mystery because we haven't been able to decipher their languages. 4,000 years ago, the Indus Valley civilization dominated India and Pakistan. Researchers think the civilization grew so large that they accounted for 10% of the global population. Unfortunately, their cities are destroyed and in ruins. They left very few records behind to describe who they were. Archaeologists struggle to understand their forgotten culture. The Indus Valley was advanced enough to create their own writing system, the Indus script, but it's never been deciphered. There are records that could change history, but scientists can't read them. Satish Palaniappan is a machine learning scientist at Microsoft. Satish says the Indus script will reveal countless secrets about the lost civilization. Things like their knowledge of the world and their everyday life. But it's locked behind what's essentially a knowledge firewall. Satish is currently using AI algorithms in an attempt to decode the script. He and his colleagues recently developed an algorithm to identify similar characters and look for patterns. Still, the AI isn't powerful enough yet. Generative models haven't been able to make sense of the ancient language. Scientists are hoping that as the technology gets more advanced, they can create a model that will decode every language ever written. Number 5. The Gods of Carlisle. At the Carlisle Cricket Club in the UK, recent excavations revealed the ruins of a mysterious Roman bathhouse. Researchers found the crumbling structure of what may have once been a luxurious palace or mansion. They also discovered some exquisitely carved heads depicting Roman gods. The heads were crafted of sandstone about 1,800 years ago. Although archaeologists only found the heads, they think the heads once had bodies. Huge bodies. The statues would have stood 15 feet tall. These were colossal, imposing Roman deities erected outside someone's luxury house. The Carlisle Cricket Club is situated near the remains of Hadrian's Wall. It was the frontier of the Roman Empire after their invasion of Britain. Hadrian's Wall marked the very point where Roman rule ended and barbarism began. The colossal statues were found at the edge of a cobbled road outside the bathhouse/mansion. It may have been that when Romans were approaching the house, they passed under the shadows of the massive sandstone gods. The bathhouse itself was identified in 2017. The cricket club was working on the construction of a new pavilion when they came across ancient remains. It didn't come as a big surprise to historians because of Carlisle's ancient past. Under the rule of the Roman Empire, the city was called Luguvalium. Nobody can agree on who lived here or who the statues were meant to be effigies of. Some experts suggested they were made in the likeness of Emperor Lucius Septimius Severus and his wife, Julia Domna. However, archaeologist Frank Giecco thinks the female statues were effigies of Fortuna, the Roman goddess of good fortune. Number 4. The Egyptian Grave Boat. The Abu Sir pyramids are not particularly well-known structures in Egypt. The pyramids are part of a great necropolis that was used for burying Egyptian royalty in the 5th dynasty, 4,400 years ago. There are 4 of them at the edge of the Western Desert, south of the Giza pyramids. In ancient times, the pyramids loomed on the outskirts of the capital of Memphis. They weren't as big or impressive as the pyramids of Giza, but were still important monuments. In the 5th century, Giza had become too crowded. There were too many pyramids and too many tombs, leaving new kings nowhere to erect their own funerary monuments. This was what made them move to Abu Sir, where they could build grand pyramids outside the shadows of the big ones. Still, the Abu Sir pyramids never impressed people as much as the ones at Giza. They have been poorly maintained and look more like triangle-shaped termite mounds. It was in this landscape of death and memory that archaeologists discovered an ancient funerary boat. They found a unique boat from 4,500 years ago inside a mud brick tomb. It's an unusual find because the boat is exceptionally well preserved. It's also strange because the boat wasn't found near one of the royal pyramids. It was in the vicinity, but not close enough to have been part of one. The size of the tomb suggests the boat was for an elite member of society. However, even the most elite members of the 5th dynasty weren't allowed to have funerary boats. They were reserved for pharaohs and queens who believed them necessary to move easily into the afterlife. Researchers don't know who the funerary boat belonged to, only that they must have been insanely wealthy to break such an important rule. One of the only other surviving funerary boats in Egypt was buried beside the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Number 3. Royal genes. How would you feel if you were related to William the Conqueror? Or what if you were the great descendant of someone like Alexander the Great? It seems silly and impossible, but it isn't. According to geneticist Graham Holton from the University of Strathclyde, many people have a genetic connection to royalty. Graham himself is related to King Edward I, the ruler of England from 1272 until 1307. But Graham isn't the only one. He estimates around 2 million people alive share a small piece of their DNA with the famous king. This leads to one of the greatest mysteries in anthropology. If you go back far enough in your family tree, is everyone related? According to the Population Reference Bureau out of Washington, D.C., approximately 107 billion anatomical modern humans have lived on this planet since 50,000 BC. Let's just do some quick math. Looking at the number of people alive today and dividing up every dead person in history, each living person is allotted 15 deceased individuals. It doesn't seem like much when you look at it that way. If there are only 15 dead people for every one living person, it's not difficult to see how closely everyone on Earth is at least a little related. 300 generations have lived and died over the past 6,000 years, leaving what scientists believe is significant genetic overlap. In 1998, Joseph Chang from Yale University discovered that a common ancestor for all Europeans existed about 600 years ago. That means that if everyone with European ancestry traced their lineage back 1,400 years, there would be at least one person the same in every family tree. The next time you want to brag to your friends, you can tell them that you're related to the King of England. Have you done your family history? Did you find anything interesting? Let me know in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 2. Ancient androids. Contrary to popular belief, androids aren't a new invention. The first automatons came to life in ancient Greece and China thousands of years ago. There were robots in Victorian England, and robotic bell ringers even cropped up in medieval Europe. Some of the first mainstream automatons were called jackmarts, or jacks of the clock. They were robots made from gears that would automatically ring church bells at certain times of the day. In the early 16th century, Leonardo da Vinci sketched a mechanical dove that would be able to fly using robotic parts. Records from ancient Greece say that in 520 BC, Greek engineer Daedalus constructed a human statue that could walk by itself. Around that same time, Greek poet Pindar wrote of automatons on the island of Rhodes. He described them as animated figures on public streets, made from stone but breathing and moving. Could there have been knowledge of automation that was forgotten thousands of years ago? Many researchers say the answer is yes. In 500 BC, China's King Shu allegedly made a flying magpie and a horse that could walk, all using advanced spring technology. Greek mathematician Archytas of Tarentum made something similar in 350 BC. He crafted a wooden dove and powered it with a pulley and counterweight system, allowing it to fly an astonishing 650 feet into the air. And you can't forget about the Antikythera mechanism, the Greek supercomputer retrieved from a shipwreck in 1901. Archaeologists in the early 20th century identified gears and mechanisms within the curious artifact. In 2008, a team of scientists from Cardiff University used computer scans to reveal inscriptions on the outer casing. They were shocked to find that the mechanism was used to follow the movements of the moon and the sun. Scientists agree this was the world's first supercomputer. used to predict eclipses and lunar orbits. That's pretty remarkable, seeing as it was built in the 2nd century BC. The Antikythera mechanism is the best evidence ever found that ancient people understood sophisticated technology. But then why was this the only supercomputer created in 2,000 years? What happened that prevented the knowledge of computation from advancing in ancient Greece? Let me know any theories you might have in the comments. Number 1. The Milky Feast. 5,000 years before today, people were feasting just like they feast now, only the items on the menu were a little bit different. Researchers recently discovered some ancient cauldrons from the Bronze Age that revealed evidence of what a prehistoric feast looked like. Ancient cooks created a delicious smorgasbord of cattle, deer, and a whole ton of milk. The Bronze Age pots were found in Russia, dated to between 3520 and 3350 BC. The cauldrons are some of the oldest ever found. They would have been difficult for early humans in Russia to make. Archaeologist Christine Hastor from the research facility at the University of California said it required a lot of knowledge to make such an important tool. The cauldrons would have been used mainly for brewing stews. These particular cauldrons were excavated from a handful of burial sites next to the Black Sea. Scientists analyzed proteins found in the preserved pots to reveal the ingredients of the Great Feast. Researchers identified blood, milk, and muscle from sheep, goats, and cows. All the tiny biomolecules were preserved on the surface of the cauldron. But it's unclear if all this stuff was being mixed together and served in a bloody, milky soup. Researchers think the prehistoric chef may have cooked the meat and dairy together, like dumping a steak into a cooking pot with half a gallon of milk. These aren't small cauldrons either. Each one was big enough for communal cooking. Judging from the size and the ingredients, the cauldron may have been used as a giant serving bowl. People would have helped themselves to a bubbling, frothing stew of bone, meat, and hot milk. Would you partake in a Bronze Age milk meat feast? Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching. Remember to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and come back soon for more awesome videos. See you later. Bye!